So you'll probably have two reactions to this video. One, you don't know who I am and you just clicked on the video because the title is kind of spicy. Or two, you do know who I am and the title of this video will be shocking. It's because my whole life I've been one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And if you knew me from before, that means you were also a witness. You probably knew that I was extremely devoted to the organization. Probably one of the most, if not the most devoted person you've ever come across. So I've never thought I'd be sitting here on this side of it, making this video talking about why I left the organization. Because as far as I'm concerned, what I knew back at the time was the truth. So I'm just going to start with my own story on who I am, where I'm from, and what woke me up, and where's my life now? What am I doing with my life, and why am I here on YouTube? So first, my name is Tanom Jackson. I'm half Thai, half American. I'm half black. I don't know if you can tell. My mom's Asian, my mom's Thai, and my dad's black. That's my background. My dad was a Vietnam War vet. My mom came from a humble Thai background. They both got, I'm not going to call it the truth, they both got the religion preached to them back when they were recruited into the religion. There we go. They were recruited into the religion in, I think my dad in the 80s and my mom in the year before I was born. Okay. And that's the year she also married my dad. So my dad never took it seriously. I was born in 92. My dad never took it seriously, kind of inactive. He knew that he dealt with a lot of trauma from the war in Vietnam, and he felt like this was an accepting community where people didn't see race, they didn't judge him for his background, and for the most part, they were morally okay. So he felt like this is a good place to, start a family and raise kids in. He never took the religion seriously. I don't know how much of it he understood about what he was joining. I would love to have that conversation with him as a man now, but he's gone. Came from a humble Thai background, and again, not very educated. So someone with emotional problems like my father and a lot of trauma, and somebody who's not very educated from a humble background, these are prime targets for Jehovah's Witnesses, right? Because they're going to sell you on that dream that you're going to live forever on the paradise earth. And yeah, this is these are their best leads for people in this organization. So growing up, mom and dad heavily indoctrinated us in the religion. It was me and my brother. We didn't know anything else. So, we grew up believing that this was the truth. So my dad passed away. He eventually passed away back when I was 14 from complications of Agent Orange and cancer that he received from the war in Vietnam. And my brother at the time was 13. Okay. And that was a major turning point in our lives because not only did our father pass away, but it was the time when the congregation really swooped in and the elders became like father figures to me and my brother. Now, it was during that period of time too that our worldly family members also helped us out a lot. We were transitioning from Thailand back to the US for my dad to get treatment, and he passed away suddenly, but our family members really did try to help us out and get established. We were with them for about a week. No, we were with them about a month. we were with them about a month. And during that month, I remember not going to I think we only went to one meeting and just hanging out with my normal family members who are not Jehovah's Witnesses. I remember they played sports. We played all kinds of video games. We watched all kinds of movies. It was great. Me and my brother had a great time. And I remember my mom didn't like it for sure. And she wanted to be near the community, near the congregation and everything. So she decided that we move out of that situation and move closer to the brothers and sisters. And they helped us get established. I kind of think back on that period. What if we stayed with our normal family members and, how would our lives have turned out? I would have been normal. But hey, I don't regret the past. It made me who I am today, and I like who I am. So let's keep it moving. So it was during that period of time that I really started to take the religion seriously because we moved close to where the brothers and sisters were, and I don't even call it. We moved closer to where the congregation was, and we were around the community of Jehovah's Witnesses. You were always having people over, you would go out in service with them and all this stuff. And it was during that time that I started taking the religion really seriously. My brother did not like that, and he was the smarter one out of the two of us. He never got baptized. He never took it seriously. He went and did his own thing. And to this day, I'm proud of him for doing that. Having, I really thrive in an organized environment. And because of that, the congregation is it's set up that way, right? You do this, you do that. Here, this is how you reach out. This is how you help the friends, whatever else. So I really thrive in that environment. I got baptized when I was 16. I started pioneering shortly afterwards, and then I graduated high school. And me being the good JW boy I went to Bethel right after high school. But my brother at the time, it was around that time that me and him were growing distant. He said that this is not for him. He doesn't believe in it. He wanted to play football, and I remember me and my mom. This is something that I regret. Me and my mom pressured him into not doing it because you should be spending time evangelizing other people, right? You should be spending time doing work, free labor, essentially, for the organization. And like playing football is something that's good for your health, that's good for your future. Not just football. It could be any sport. It could be soccer, whatever the hell. It doesn't matter. Doing stuff like that, especially as a young person, is great for your own development. You learn teamwork. You have a coach, right? He's going to recommend books for you to read so you can develop and grow as a person. That would have been great for him, but we held him back from doing that. And the elders talked to him. I pressured him. My mom pressured him because we were all brainwashed. And that is something I deeply regret. And me and my brother, and it was around that time that I started shunning him. It's awful. When I went to Bethel, I pretty much stopped speaking to him. He was like a stranger to me. And since then, now that I'm out and everything, we've reconnected and we talk almost every other week. And yeah, our conversation is like 4 hours long. And I love you, bro. if you're ever watching this, I love you. You are my true brother. And anyway, back to I'm getting off track. So I went to Bethel when I was 19. I regret being one of Jehovah's Witnesses, but I don't regret going to Bethel. If that's weird, maybe that's weird to say. I'm just gonna be honest with my experiences. I'm not here to bash the organization. I'm not here to make fun of them or anything. If I had a good experience, I'm gonna be honest and say I have a good experience. I'm not Watchtower. I don't lie about my past. So I'm gonna, if I had a good experience with something, I'm gonna say I had a good experience. And Bethel was a good experience. The labor was garbage. The old people that have been there since the age of dinosaurs, they were awful, as you can expect. Yeah, they were very entitled. You don't get paid anything. When I was there, I think they raised it up from $130 a month to like $140, which is slave labor essentially. But yeah, you were told it was a privilege to do it, and yeah, we did it. But the reason why it was great was because in your Kingdom Hall, you may have one or two other young person your age that you can hang out with, and for the most part, they were just people older than you. At Bethel, you were now exposed to people your age from all over the country. They were all concentrated there. So you had a bunch of dudes to hang out with, hundreds of them, your age, and they're into different things. Some are into video games, some are into working out. A lot of them drink. So, you can't drink until you're 21, but, things happen. There's a ton of things you can get into at Bethel, and it was I guess it's the only college experience that you can experience as a witness in that organization. So at that time in my life, I had a great time. All the parties, we would take trips over to another state to stay at someone's house. Yeah, it was wonderful. And the one thing I will say about that organization, if nothing else, you have to be fair, is that there were no such thing as like race in that organization. Now, of course, it depends on your experience and where you're from. There are some racist halls, racist congregations out there. I can only speak from my experience. I did not see color, okay, in that organization. There were people, I had friends that were Koreans, I had friends that were white, black, Hispanic. We hung out and we worked out together. We went out to eat together. We had a great time. Maybe that was just first time away from home for me. Maybe I'm looking at it with rose-tinted glasses. Maybe if I had gone to college, I would have said college is much better than... I'm pretty sure if I had gone to college, I would say college was much better than Bethel. But, that's neither here nor there. So I was there for about 3.5 years. I got the next chapter in my life is I got married at 23, and then I moved to Thailand to be a need grader, which means more free volunteer work for the organization. You're moving to a country that has a low count of Jehovah's Witnesses, and your job is you're going to convert more people locally in that country to be Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm half American, half Thai. I have dual citizenship, and I can speak both languages fluently. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to use my talents for God because I am a good JW. How pathetic. All right. So now let's get to the good part. Okay. What woke me up? Everything I've said so far is up until 2016. The things that happened after that is the part where my faith in the organization and in this religion started to become unglued. Now, there wasn't anything specific that did it. It was, I guess, a group of things that happened over time that woke me up. Now, between 2016 and when I woke up in January of 2024, which was, what month is this? It's October, so about 10 months ago, 9 months ago. So during that period, I saw a lot of corruption in the organization, a lot of politics within the elder body here in Thailand, people doing all kinds of shady stuff. Of course, you would just dismiss that, right? You were told to dismiss it as it's a perfect organization with imperfect people in it. What do you expect? Okay, so I brushed that aside. The thing that always held it together to me to be the truth was the doctrine, was the fact that Jehovah is God. This is his organization since 1919 specifically. And the governing body is the channel that he is using. Okay. Everything else doesn't really matter because, you know, these people can make mistakes, whatever, but this is still the channel according to the Bible. That is what made it the truth, was the fact that it was scripturally accurate. It wasn't the fact that they had love, because if you go into the congregation, you're going to see imperfections, right? You can have better friendships with people, with worldly people, with people who are not witnesses. But the reason why this organization is the truth was the doctrine. The first thing that woke me up, that started to wake me up, was during the pandemic. It was the 2021 convention. I think it was David Splain's talk about apostasy. I just remember it being so weird. I don't even know why the hell you would spend time talking about this topic. Because, okay, imagine if you're a professional basketball player, right? And let's just say you're LeBron James for the sake of argument. And somebody were to say that you can't play basketball. What would you even say to that person? Would you have to respond? Would you have to make a diss track? No, you don't have to do anything. You just have to show them a clip of you playing basketball in the Lakers uniform, and then that disproves everything, right? So I always felt like if we had the truth, okay, we can prove it from the Bible that we have the truth. Why are we addressing don't listen to apostates? They're going to tell you something, and you will not be able to think critically, and you will turn away from the organization. I always thought that was weird. And that was really the vibe from his whole talk. And it just felt very desperate and odd. So that's the only thing I remember from it. Okay, I'm not going to go on jw.org and get the clip and put it on here. I'm not doing that. I haven't been on that website in like months. But if you want to look at it, go back to the 2021 convention and look at David Splain's talk. It's I think it's something about the voice of strangers or something like that. But anyway, it is his whole rant about apostasy. And I felt like that was weird. And I remember, this is also the other thing I remember from that talk, was his argument was about how it made you feel. He was like, how does it make you feel when you listen to apostates? And I thought, like, why does that matter? We go to people's doors telling them the truth. We don't care about how they feel because what we say is the truth, right? It doesn't matter how you feel. Like, facts are facts, right? So he's over here trying to manipulate us with like emotional arguments. Like, it doesn't make you feel good to listen to apostates, so don't listen to them. No, man. Why does that matter? If it's true, it's true. If it's like me saying Australia is bigger than Thailand, you come at me and say, well, Tanoms are racist. Okay, let's say I am a racist. I'm not, but let's just say I am for the sake of argument. What I said was still factually true. Australia is bigger than Thailand, right? Doesn't matter how you feel about me. You have to accept that as factually true. So I always thought this whole not listening to apostates and attacking them as individuals, like these are angry, bitter people, they're evil and all this stuff. It's like, okay, let's listen to their argument. We can disprove it, right? Because we have the truth. Anyway, That was David Splain's talk from 2021. That was the first chink in the armor for me. Then you had the annual meeting in 2022. This is back when Anthony Morris was still on there, so I'm pretty sure his video has been taken down. I don't think this is on jw.org anymore, but I remember it was the last talk of the annual meeting, and he was talking about why is the system taking so long, right? Why is the end not here yet? And I remember he pulled out this letter of like longtime Bethelites that have been there for God knows how long. And it was one letter from this old brother. I still remember this because it didn't make any fucking sense when I heard it. Okay? It didn't make any sense to me at the time when I heard it. And he said, my grandmother was a Bible student. She thought the end was around the corner. She waited and died. My mother waited and died. I'm now in my 80s. Does it mean that we've been deceived? No, my faith is stronger in Jehovah, blah, 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 blah. I remember listening to that and I said, no, if we've been deceived, this is exactly what it would look like. It would look like your grandmother waited and died. Your mother waited and died. And you're in your 80s, bro. This is exactly what it would look like. So that didn't make any sense to me. And I remember, okay, that's a bad argument. I'm just going to chalk it up to being, he's an old man writing a letter. We're not going to pay attention to that. We still have the truth because doctrinally in the Bible, this is the channel that Jehovah is using. Right? So, yeah, that was the second chink in the armor, was that 2022 annual meeting talk. And finally, the straw that broke the camel's back was in 2023. Well, this is the annual meeting in 2023. It came out on broadcasting in January 2024, so it came out 9 months ago. And that is the moment that I woke up. No, I still didn't wake up, but that was the moment that made me go and do research. And it was this new understanding that anyone can survive Armageddon. Okay? Because in the past, we thought that, we were doing a life-saving work. That's why we need to go door to door to help preach to people and, make them learn the truth about the Bible so they can decide. But now it doesn't matter because if the end comes, Jehovah can read hearts, right? So we're not going to accomplish the preaching work to all the corners of the earth anyway. So, okay, that sounds great. I don't care. I don't want people to die. There's room on the vote for everybody, right? That was always the way I felt about it. But what didn't make sense was that, okay, why were you not reading hearts like in the 30s? Why did you start to read hearts now, Jehovah? Why were you not doing that years ago? So, yeah, that made zero sense to me. And I was like, okay, and everybody was clapping and talking about how exciting it was and everything. And I remember I was just sitting there, I was lost. That didn't make any sense to me. So all those years of preaching meant nothing. And you're Jehovah, you have this grand plan for the future, right? So you knew that the system was going to last a lot longer than it needed to be. And, you were going to use this dumb strategy of preaching, which is like the lowest. Okay. Also, if you do sales and marketing, you need to understand, you understand the customer journey, right? The method that Jehovah's Witnesses is doing it is the most inefficient method of reaching people. You're reaching out to unaware customers and you're trying to convert them. And that's why the conversion rate is so low. But hey, if you have a God who understands marketing if you have a guy who's like all knowing, he needs to understand marketing and sales and he needs to understand customer journey, right? Why he uses stupid, inefficient method and then change his mind to read hearts later like that? None of that made sense to me. So anyway, that was the moment where I was like, you know what, I'm going to do more research on this. And my intention was not to leave Jehovah's Witnesses. My intention was that at the time, I felt like I needed more faith in the governing body. I needed to trust the governing body. This is just from my lack of understanding about where we are in the stream of time. So let me do more research to convince myself that we are now living in the last days and that this is the channel that Jehovah is using. And I just need to be patient and everything will be revealed and it'll work out in its due time. Okay? You already know where this is going to go. By doing research on the last days, obviously, you're going to come across the magic date that is 1914. You dig a little deeper on how we calculate the date and where that came from, you get the magic number 607. Now, every witness knows what this is about. There was the latest thing that was published on the organization was in the Watchtower Online Library was this 2011 article. It was a two-parter. I forgot the month. I think it's June. I forgot the month. I haven't been on that website in a while, but it's the latest thing they've published on it, and I doubt they'll say anything else about it because there's nothing to be said. They don't have any information. I remember this two-part article. It was very long, very convoluted, and there was a footnote. It didn't really make sense on how they arrive at the date of 607 for Jerusalem's destruction. But there's a footnote at the bottom that there is no scholar. I remember this. I was shocked when I read it. There is no scholar or historian that believes that 607 is the date Jerusalem was destroyed. And they all said that Jerusalem was destroyed in 587. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, this didn't make any sense. What we must know something that they don't. You know, we get light from Jehovah. They did not. Let me do more research to find out how we arrive at this date of 607. If you are an ex-witness watching this, you already know why 607 is significant. If you're a witness watching this, which I don't even know why any witness would be watching this video, but if you are, you're watching this in secret. The reason why 607 is important is because you need 607 to get the date of 1914. I'm going to walk you through why that's important here in a little bit. And the reason why the date of 1914 is important is because you need 1919. Because if you're a witness, you really don't understand your own beliefs. You just regurgitate a bunch of scriptures and a bunch of points from the Watchtower, but you don't understand why that is that important to you. Let me walk you through it. Damn it. And now I realize to do this, I need to go on jw.org to get the Bible. And it's been a while since I've been on here. Peace on earth, how will it come? Boy, is truth important anymore? Man, tell me. All right, anyway, let me go ahead and get the Bible. Okay, so before I dig into I have the Bible in front of me now. So before I dig into these scriptures, let me explain to you what I did at the time of reading that Watchtower. So I figured out that no historian and no scholar agrees that it is 607. They agree that it's 587. The question is, how do you know that the governing body is being used by Jehovah? How do you know that this is the channel and not the Catholic Church or not the Mormon Church or whatever other stuff out there? Okay, how do you know that this is the channel being used by God? Now, a lot of witnesses will point to like Matthew's 24 or whatever. Those scriptures are just parables. They're not specifically talking about this organization. What scripture shows the organization in the Bible specifically? Okay, that scripture is in Revelation chapter 11. Let me show you. Revelation chapter 11:3, it says, I will cause my two witnesses to prophesy for 1,260 days dressed in sackcloth. Now, these 1,260 days are a period from 1914 to 1919. And that's the period when Rutherford and the boys were in prison, right? And all those guys. And they were freed in 1919. Since then, this has been the channel that Jehovah is using. Okay, so it is prophesied in the Bible that this is going to be the channel that Jehovah is using. Right here, okay? In here, in the Bible, in Revelation, I don't see Pope Benedict. I don't see anybody else. I see the organization. This is what told me that this is the truth. How the hell do I know that this is 1919 and not some other random date? Go back to Revelation chapter 1. If I go to Revelation chapter 1 and we look in verse 10, it says, by inspiration I came to be in the Lord's day. So, when is the Lord's day? The Lord's day is 1914, right? That's when Christ began ruling in heaven. So that tells you that everything in the book of Revelation is from 1914 onwards, okay? That is what proves that this is the true religion, according to the Bible, okay? Not according to the fact that they are nice to each other, not according to the fact that they don't celebrate birthdays. That's all BS. The part that matters is the prophecies in the Bible and needs to make sense, okay? So now you know why 1919 is important, and now you know why 1914 is important. How you get 1914? You need to calculate the dates from the destruction of Jerusalem, which is 607. So this is where we are now facing this problem, because the Watchtower itself says that no Bible scholar says that 607 is the date. They all say it's 587. And I know I skipped over a bunch of other stuff. How do you calculate 607 to 1914? That's a whole nother thing. I'm not gonna. There's other videos on YouTube explaining how Jehovah's Witnesses got those numbers. I'm not going to do that here. But the point is, what I discovered at that point was that I need to do more research on this. So I'm going to do research to prove that we have it right. We have 607, and these Bible scholars are wrong. I did not go on any apostate website. I did not go to YouTube. I did not even Google it. What I did was I went to Wikipedia. because Wikipedia is not pro-Buddhism. Wikipedia is not pro-Republican or anything. Wikipedia is just Wikipedia. Okay. Wikipedia is as boring, as unbiased as anyone else. So I went to Wikipedia, and according to Wikipedia, the destruction of Jerusalem was in 587. They agree with the scholars. And that didn't make any sense to me. And then, as I dig into this even further, I realized not only that the scholars point to 587, the Bible points to 587. Let me show you. So in 2 Kings 25:8, it says, in the 5th month on the 7th, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I'm going to skip through the beginning of that. It says, the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar. I can't even read today. It says, in the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, the servant of, wow, this is crazy. I would fail the theocratic ministry school. Let me start over. In the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar, the chief of the guard, the servant of the king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem. So it said in the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign, he came to Jerusalem. Okay. So I want you to look up, when was Nebuchadnezzar born? You don't have to look it up. I'm going to tell you. He was born in 605 BCE. So 605, you count down 19, that gets you to about 586/587. That was around the date that they would have conquered Jerusalem. And yeah, that's would have been the time of Jerusalem's destruction, which is what Bible scholars and historian and the Bible all agreed on. So I was blown away by this. I realized the historians, the Bible scholars, and the Bible all point to 587, but we still point to 607. Why is that? Were we wrong? And you have to understand that at this point, I was scared, because I realized at this point, my whole life, this was the first time I realized my whole life might have been a lie. And I might have been wrong about everything up until this point. And the repercussions from that would be significant, because, my friends, family, marriage, what would happen to all that if I continued doing research. But at the same time, I've always valued truth. That's why I became one of Jehovah's Witnesses in the first place. They always said the 3 H's, right? Honest, humble, and hungry. I was those things. I value truth. I wanted to live the true and authentic life. And I thought that being one of Jehovah's Witnesses was going to allow me to do that. I was serving God. I was doing the most important work of all time. And then to have this flip on his head was shocking for me. So I was scared, but I was like, I have the truth. Everything I know about the Bible has to be true. I'm going to do further research to prove that we have the truth. The one scripture we hang on to the one scripture that Jehovah's Witnesses hung on to show that the destruction of Jerusalem was in 607 is in Jeremiah. And the reason why is because they have that scripture is because they grossly misinterpret it. Let me show you. So Jeremiah 25:11, it says, and all this land will be reduced to ruins, and it will become an object of horror. And these nations will have to serve the king of Babylon for 70 years. They figured that because this was written in 537, okay? This came true in 537. If you count back 70, you would get 607. That's how they figured it. But if you pay attention to what this scripture is saying, it says these nations, including Jerusalem, will serve the king of Babylon for 70 years. It's not just talking about destruction, but it's talking about subjugation. And if you remember, the last king of Jerusalem was King Zedekiah. He was a puppet for Babylon for like 20 years before it was destroyed. So the destruction, this scripture is not saying the destruction of Jerusalem is going to happen in 607. It just said that they were going to be subjugated around that time. And they were. The destruction happened in 587, according to the Bible and according to historians and Bible scholars. So the whole foundation of the doctrine of Jehovah's Witnesses and on why they are the true religion is wrong. There is no 607, which means there is no 1914, which means there is no 1919. They are no more true than any other random church down the street. They're just another religion. And I remember that was, I didn't even know how to react to that. Like it proved to me beyond shadow of a doubt that everything that I had believed in was false. And it was around this point that I started doing further research into Wikipedia. I still didn't go on any apostate websites. And then I discovered Ray France. Now, I was in Bethel. I've heard stories about Ray France. People said that he was arrogant. People said that he had his own ideas. That's why he got this fellowship. He's the only governing body member to like be this fellowship, to leave and be this fellowship like that about him. But then I went and read about him on Wikipedia. They said that he left because he discovered that the organization was manipulative and was not telling the truth. The one scripture that comes to mind to me at that time was Proverbs 18:17. And this is one of my favorite scriptures in the Bible, even until this day. I'm not a believer in the Bible anymore. I'm not part of any religion. I'm just me. But this scripture is true. It says the first to state his case seems right until the other party comes and cross-examines him. And it made me realize that I've only listened to one side of the argument my whole life. I've only listened to Jehovah's Witnesses. I've only listened to their version, their side of the story. I did not hear anyone else. Never heard the apostates, never heard why people left, never heard anything about Ray France. I saw on Wikipedia that he had a book, Crisis of Conscience. So I decided to pick that book up. That book was earth-shattering, to say the least. It really opened up the curtain on what goes on in these governing body meetings. And I remember I came across one point. This was still towards the beginning of the book. I'm going to screenshot it and put it on the video. They were working on the 1970 version of the New World Translation, and he discovered that they misuse a word in Acts chapter 14:26. Now, the reason why this is not even that important, but the reason why I was about 50 to 100 pages in this book, I wanted to be in denial. I wanted to say Ray France is lying, the apostates are lying, everyone is wrong, we are right. Because it gave me no pleasure to discover that I was lied to my whole life and that I was wasting my time. I wanted to know that this is a bit of a sunk cost fallacy. I wanted to know that what I invested my time in and energy in was the truth. So I came across this part in the book when he was working on like 1970s New World Translation. He discovered in Acts 14:26, they added the word, what was the word? They added the word, they added the word to office into that scripture. Okay. And in the original Greek, there was no to office. Okay. They added that word themselves in the previous version of New World Translation. So, and Fred France told him, said, it's okay, just release the 1970 version the way it is. We'll come out with a revised version later on. And he even said, like, why don't you check in some other translation that may not be as biased? And then Ray France was like, what do you mean not as biased? We have the truth. We're not biased. But I remember at that point, I was like, okay, Ray France is lying. He's making up all this stuff about these conversations. This is not real. Because we had a 1970s New World Translation in the back of the hall. And I'm going to go to that. I remember we had a meeting that Sunday. I'm going to go to the meeting. I'm going to crack open that 1970s New World Translation, and I'm going to turn to Acts 14:26, and that word to office better not be there. Because if it's there, I don't know what to do. If it's there, it means that Ray France is telling the truth, and everything I've discovered is factual. So I went to the Kingdom Hall. I went to the back to the library. I opened up that 1970s New World Translation, and sure enough, that word to office was there. So I remember at that moment, I almost had a panic attack. I couldn't be in denial any further. I was in a cult. I immediately realized this was a cult. It's for some people, it takes time after leaving the organization to reflect back and realize, oh, I was in a cult. But immediately I realized this is a cult, because the amount of control they have on you, on how much information what information you can access, what you can read, what you can do with your life, and you can't leave. And I always knew they controlled a lot of your life, but I justified it by saying that they have the truth from the Bible. This is the channel that God is using. Once that is gone, once you don't have the authority from God, you're just a crazy organization trying to control people. And I didn't want anything to do with it immediately. And I remember that day the meeting was starting. My wife and everybody was in the Kingdom Hall. I went outside to the car. The first person I called was my brother. I was a mess. I was apologizing to him. I told him if he didn't want to forgive me, it's fine. I totally understand. He was fine. He was cool with it. We went back to being best friends without any hiccup. And again, I love you for that, bro. I was very grateful that he was still forgiving of what I've done to him in the past. And then obviously the next thing is I had to go back into the Kingdom Hall. I remember I was the Watchtower reader that day, and that was rough because everything, every paragraph it made me wanted to vomit. Made every paragraph. Why is grammar not coming to me today? I wanted to vomit at reading every paragraph because I saw through it immediately. I couldn't see it the same way I saw it before. They were using language to tell you how to think, and I was like, you're not backed up by God. You don't have any authority to say any of this stuff. And I was disgusted. I remember around that time, I think it was about 6 months prior to that, we had a friend who died. She was only 21. She died by denying blood transfusion. And I remember at the funeral talk, doctors escorted her family out of the room before she went under. They told her, said, "Hey, I know your family's pressuring you to not take blood, but we can really save your life." And her response was that, "I'm an adult. I make my own decisions. I don't want blood." And, I remember at the funeral talk, they were saying how courageous that was and how she stood up for her faith. And I remember being so encouraged from that. And now thinking back, she died for nothing. And I felt horrible about that. And I felt horrible that I wanted to throw up, man. I was proud of the fact that she sacrificed her life like that. And I thought that was good. It's crazy, man. It's crazy what the indoctrination does to you. But like in that morning, I remember my mindset on everything about that organization was just different. So we went home that day. My wife could tell something was wrong with me. She was asking me, like, what is wrong? And the first thing I did was I apologized. I don't know. I was not in my right frame of mind. I apologized to her for not having kids because we were, that couple that we were not going to have kids on this side of Armageddon. We were going to wait until the new world to start a family and everything. And we were not and because of that, we made so much sacrifice for the organization. We're not in the financial position to have kids either. So yeah, I apologized to her for not having kids. And she was like, "Oh, it's fine. We don't need to have kids on this side of the system of things." And it was at that moment that I realized, wow, I realized my marriage may also be in jeopardy because she's still very indoctrinated and I did not want anything to do with this organization. So I came clean to her. I told her everything. And at first she showed understanding, maybe because looking back on it now, she showed understanding because she thought it was just a phase that I was in. Maybe I was a little confused. I'll do more research. I'll pray about it and I'll come around. And yeah, so at first she showed understanding. She listened empathetically and everything. But once the new normal started to settle in, once she realized that I did not want anything to do with the meetings, I was not going to go out in service. I did not want to talk to anyone from the Kingdom Hall. I wanted to focus on work and rebuilding my life. That was when we started having problems. And she accused me of, you've been a witness all your life. How are you just going to up and leave now? You show no loyalty. And I told her that actually they were disloyal to me from the beginning. I was loyal to them. They were not loyal to me. What I signed up for was truth. I was not presented with all the information. Okay. Now that I've been presented with all the information, I'm making an informed decision. That contractual agreement we had when I signed it, that is now invalid because what I signed up for and what I got was two separate things. That's how I explained it to her, but that was not registering. And I remember we were growing apart because of that, because she wanted to continue in the religion. I didn't. So she forced me to write a disassociation letter. This is kind of crazy. She said, "If this is going to be your stance, you need to write a disassociation letter." Me, the way I felt was that, no, that organization does not deserve a letter from me. I don't need to explain myself. I'm not going to go back, and they're not my boss. I don't have to say anything. But to compromise and to keep the peace in the home, I went along with it. I wrote a disassociation letter. Of course, that led to me meeting with the elders. In meeting with the elders, I told them everything I said in this video so far from the Bible, and they had nothing. They couldn't prove to me that what they had was the truth. And then I wasn't argumentative. I told them I was willing to go back and be a witness again if you can prove to me that this is the truth, because that's what I signed up for. I value truth. And I told them multiple times it gave me no pleasure to say any of the things I'm saying to you now, because if everything I'm saying to you now is true, that means my life has been a lie. And why would I want to admit that? Okay. This is just me coming to terms with the reality. Because they couldn't show me anything from the Bible, I was the one showing them from the Bible why their beliefs are wrong. So if anybody needs to be disciplined for this, it's you guys. You guys have the wrong understanding of the Bible. I don't. And they said, okay, so you don't agree with our beliefs. As long as you stay quiet and you don't make, YouTube videos like this, you don't have to disassociate yourself. You can just kind of fade away, do your own thing, and we won't bother you. So we kind of left on a gentleman's agreement on that. They did not keep their obviously they did not keep their end of the agreement, because they would continually reach out and they would have these long conversations with me about why I need to come back. And some of these brothers, man, we spent a lot of time together. We hung out together a lot. And I would tell them, listen, I'm okay with you being a witness. I am not trying to change your beliefs. Okay? Stop talking to me about religion. I don't care. I want to rebuild my life. I want to move on. If you want to hang out and work out together like the way we've done in the past, cool. I'm still the same guy. I'm not hateful. I'm not angry. I'm not doing drugs or anything like that. I just don't want to be preached to. And I don't want to keep rehashing the same conversation, because it's the same points. I'm having to explain your beliefs back to you because you don't understand what the hell you're talking about. So it got so bad to the part where I had to start blocking these people because they were just so invasive, and it was just annoying dealing with them. So it was during this time that I actually started watching apostate material on YouTube. Yeah. I started Googling the history of Jehovah's Witnesses. I discovered even more unsavory truths about them. I discovered the Australian Royal Commission, which that was crazy. I remember the one recurring theme that kept coming up in my conversations with my wife and with these elders and with anyone else is, do you believe in God? They keep hammering that point home to me. And I was doing a lot of reflection about that time about Jehovah, about God of the Bible, Jehovah. I realized I'm the code that he is. Okay, because around this point, I separated into two different categories, right? My belief in the organization and my belief in God. For sure, my belief in the organization was gone. If Jehovah is the true God and everything in the Bible is true, then this organization is not used by him. My belief in God was still sort of there. And it was around this time, so I started thinking critically about Jehovah, and I realized he's a narcissist. He's not a loving creator. He's not a loving father. Think about this. He's allowed this system to go on for so long, all because of his sovereignty, all to prove Adam and Eve wrong. I mean, how insane is that? Imagine you're a parent and your kid tells you, Mom or Dad, we don't need you no more. Okay? So would you just let your kids go? Let them be kidnapped? Let them be abused? And I don't even know if I could say this on here, let them be caped and all this stuff. And would you come back later to rescue them and say, see, I told you, you needed me. See, did you learn your lesson? Like, if a parent did that, would you say that's a loving parent? No, you would say that's a narcissist. And think about what the human race has endured since the Garden of Eden until now, right? We've endured wars, the unspeakable things, worse than the examples I just gave. And all of this is just to prove his sovereignty. Like, dude, you have the emotional awareness of like a 10-year-old. So in that part, I realized he's a narcissist. So I had to do research on that to figure out, does he even exist? Some of you may believe in God, and hey, that's good. Power to you. I'm not going to judge you. That's on you. But the argument that we always use as a witness was, if you look at nature, it is too complex to come about by chance, right? That's like saying that's like you going into a house and you see a cake there. You would never conclude that the flour, the milk, and the eggs all came together and baked this cake. Somebody must have baked it, right? Okay, that's a logical argument. What's the illogical part is to say that, hey, I think that guy baked it. If for you to say, I think that guy baked it, you need to have like evidence that he was in that house, he was in the kitchen, he was baking it. So yes, if you look at nature and everything on earth, it is more complex than than to come about by chance. But to say that that guy Jehovah did it, you need receipts, and there there's no receipts that he's existing now, or that he has an organization. So yeah, maybe there's a higher power out there. I guess that's where I'm at right now. I'm kind of agnostic, but the God of the Bible, no, he's incapable of showing love. He's dumber than a 20-year-old. So no, I don't think he is the creator. I don't think he's God. So it was around that part that I came to realize that I don't accept Jehovah as God. And the next step up is I also don't accept the Bible as being the word of God. Because Jehovah's Witnesses, we always point to the Trinity, right? Well, the Trinity came in 19, not 19. The Trinity came in 325 at the Council of Nicaea, and it was a pagan belief, right? It wasn't part of the original Christian doctrine in the first century. Okay, if you want to believe that, that's fine, but that same council met in Rome in 382 and came up with the Bible. Yeah, the same council that came up with the Trinity and all that stuff, that is the Catholic Church, they came up with the book called the Bible. They decided which 66 books was going to be included in there. So if you want to deny the Trinity, Jehovah's Witnesses, you're going to have to deny the Bible because it all came from the same source. It came from the Catholic Church. So it was around that part that I just realized, okay, all of this is just man-made. All religions are man-made. There's degrees of virtue and truth in different ones. Find one that works for you if you want to be religious. I'm not saying you don't have to be. But for me, this is all man-made. You're no different from any other church down the street, and I didn't want anything to do with religion anymore. So it was around that part that I stopped meeting with elders. I stopped responding to text messages. I started blocking people. My wife would go out in the ministry, and we would try to have some semblance of a relationship, but we were living in two separate worlds. Now, at the same time, I remember that time in my life being miserable because I was still living like an inactive witness. I just wasn't attending meetings, but I wasn't going to meetups because she wouldn't be comfortable with me spending time with people who are worldly, right? People who are not witnesses. So I didn't have any friends. I was very lonely. The only thing I could do was just work, gym, occasional time spent with her. I would just watch YouTube. That period was about 3 months before we decided to end our marriage. And I remember that being lonely. It was a very lonely time in my life. I remember there would be times when people who hung out with us, with me and my wife, they would still call and chat it away with my wife, no problem, but they just wouldn't talk about me. I would be sitting there in the room, but I would just be painted into the wall. To them, I didn't exist anymore. I was persona non grata. And it's, at first it hurt because they realized, man, these were my friends. This was my community. How could they don't see me for who I am. I remember having just conversations with my wife about unconditional love, about how I would always love them no matter what, because we have history together, right? But they can't unsee the fact that I'm a witness. They can't unsee that. That's the only thing they see, that, oh, you're an apostate. You don't have the same beliefs as us. And their love was so conditional, including hers. And that I started to think about this on, could we even continue the marriage? And that was hard. Because on one hand, I loved her, and this was the person I wanted to spend my life with. But on the other hand, you got to think, what kind of life would that be? I couldn't pursue things that interest me. I wouldn't have friends. And things like celebrating birthdays. I've never celebrated my birthday. I wanted to do something like that. I wanted to celebrate Christmas, right? I can't do that being married to her. And what would my life look like when I'm 80 years old and I'm dying, right? Would I reflect back on my whole journey and said that I did not do the things I wanted to do and I lived to please these people? No, I didn't want that, right? So that led to me having some difficult conversations, but necessary conversations together. Of course, during that time, she was fine. Every time she went to the Kingdom Hall, the elders would tell her, hey, stay strong. So she had her whole support system. I did not. And we sat down and had a conversation about it. It lasted, I remember that conversation lasted like 2 days. I told her that I felt alone. I didn't feel seen. And she said I had myself to blame for that. And And, I told her that I would love her if she was Hindu or Buddhist or whatever. And she said she didn't care about that. To her, I wasn't a witness. And I remember this vividly. She said it would be better if you were never a witness and I was married to you, because there's a chance that you may convert in the future. But you want nothing to do with the organization. So you are even worse than somebody who was never a witness. So it was around that point that I realized, that point that I realized I couldn't be married to somebody who didn't respect me. This is not a relationship that I want to save. I even started to play scenarios with her. Like, okay, if I wanted to celebrate my birthday, would you do it with me? She said no. And I said, okay, what if they come out with a new understanding later that birthdays were okay? Would you celebrate birthdays with me? She said yes. So I said, so you would rather satisfy these 9 men or 10 men in New York over satisfying your actual husband? And she didn't see it that way. She was like, no, I would rather listen to God. Yeah. It was like talking to a wall. But I'm not here to badmouth her. I don't hate her. To this day, we left amicably. This is not to talk trash about her. This is the byproduct of being one of Jehovah's Witnesses. Okay. My experience is not the only one out there. There's many other people like it. So this is just me sharing my story. Hopefully it'll connect with somebody. So during our long discussions about different scenarios and what should we do, should we stay married and all this stuff, she didn't want to divorce either because she loved me and I loved her. But this religion is just this veil that's in the way. And I remember at one point she even asked, okay, would it be better if I wasn't a witness? And the answer is yes, right? It would be much easier. But I told her I didn't want her to leave to satisfy me, because that would just bring resentment in the future. I wanted her to make her own decision on whether she wanted to be a witness or not. And for her, it didn't matter about the Australian Royal Commission. It didn't matter that doctrinally it's not in the Bible. No one cared. She didn't care about that. To her, it was the fact that they had a community. It was the fact that this was all she knew. There was the fact that her friends and family are Jehovah's Witnesses, and she's not willing to give that up, which is fine. I respect that. There's a lot of people like that. I'm not here to judge that. I just know that I can't live a lie. And if that means losing everything, then so be it. We separated. That was back in July, 4 months ago. And since then, I've been living on my own here, my little bachelor pad. It's like the size of a cat's box, but it's good. It's perfect for me. So where am I now? I've been doing meetups. I'm working 2 different jobs. I'm trying to rebuild my life. That's really what this YouTube channel is about. It's not about me bashing the organization. It's about me reflecting on lessons learned and me growing as a person, because 31 years of my life was wasted in that organization. I still got another 50 years or so until I'm 80. So I want to enjoy the next 50 years. I want to make the next 50 years of my life amazing myself. Since leaving, I can say that my life has gotten much better. Yes, I lost everybody, but listen, man. I realized very quickly after leaving was that the people that were out of my life, those friends that I had, they needed to be out of my life a long time ago, because they were holding me back. And I realized that those people, I did not have a lot in common with those people. We were just enmeshed in the same religion. We did the same activities. We had the same beliefs, so we hung out together, but we weren't really vibing with each other. So now that I'm out, I've been able to find different communities, been going to different meetups. Yeah, I've explored things like tarot cards reading, spirituality, things that I would have never done back when I was a witness, all to try and find my true self. And, it made me realize, this is a conversation that I was having with my brother, is that for 31 years of my life, a lot of those years, I can't remember it. It was a blur. But these last 9 months, I can remember it vividly. And it's because I wasn't living my true life. I was playing a character. So now that I'm living my true authentic life, I can remember everything. And yes, I enjoy every moment, the highs and the lows. Because now the lows are at least from the results of my actions, right? I chose to be in those situations and I deal with the consequences. Before, when you're a witness, man, you had to deal with the consequences, but they were somebody else's choices pushed upon you, right? Now, at least I get to do my own thing and live authentically. So I just started this channel to kind of document my journey and document things I'm reading and putting it out there into the world. I remember YouTube was a big part of me waking up, so maybe somebody might resonate with this. Overall, as I reflect back on that organization and the governing body and all that, I personally don't care about what happens to them. This is about me and not about them. I haven't been on jw.org in months. It's been like 8-9 months since I've been on it. This is my first time today. This is my first time being on that website. I don't care about the changes they've made. I don't care if they go out of business. They're not relevant to me. Okay. This is about me closing that chapter of my life and moving on. And yeah, man, I'll catch you guys in the next one.